We are broadcasting live from the Woodlands, Texas to the world. You're listening to the only multimedia FM station in Houston, Texas. Your Fusion Radio. Top 40s, dance, Latin, country, pop, rock and roll. All in one station. Mixing genres and generations. You're listening to KNLY New Waverly, Texas. 91.1 FM, The Boss.
Welcome back to the 365 Driven Podcast. I am Tony Watley, host of the 365 Driven Podcast, and we are here with Frank Mulcahy, and he is with Mulcahy and Associates, and he is a well-known, renowned expert in cybersecurity practices. Frank, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here today to do this session on cybersecurity and the impact in the workplace.
Man, there's so many things going on out there. There's a lot of breakdowns in these systems and processes, and a lot of people are losing a lot of data and being exposed to some very malicious people in the world. Give us some insight on that.
Well, as I travel around it was around the country, but now it's around the world, talking about cybersecurity and more importantly, looking for ways to help to protect corporations, associations, and individuals against the ever-growing threat. I think that the best thing that corporations can do is help to engage the employees in cybersecurity awareness training. And what I try to do in working with corporations and associations is to develop a sense of awareness amongst the employees, but I do it a little bit different than an IT department and a hardware and software and all that. I do it from the perspective that I want the individuals to realize the damages that can happen to them and their family, their children, their wives, their spouses, because if they learn to develop a culture of safety and security with their own data, when they go to work and we entrust them with our data as corporations, they're going to do a better job at protecting the data because they see the value in other people's data instead of looking at it as, oh, well, it's my job and that's just a file. It's not a file. To them, it's a file. To me, it's my digital DNA.
Man, it's their life.
Yeah, it's my whole life.
I've been actually a victim of identity fraud. Someone with a cell phone company purchased a cell phone. This was years ago. And I'll tell you, I went through utter hell to get this thing removed and had to combat against the cell phone company. And the thing is they would not release even the point of where that transaction occurred. They just totally, you're basically guilty until proven innocent, and it's hard to prove your innocence.
Yeah. In legal situations, and I deal with attorneys all across the United States in my employee benefit business, we're innocent until proven guilty, according to the law. But with identity theft, no, we're guilty until we prove our innocence.
Oh my gosh,
it's backwards. And when you go to the I love law enforcement. I work with many of the departments, particularly here in the greater Houston area with the City of Houston and Fort Bend County and Brazoria County and Galveston County. And, we have lunch together and we talk and we actually do trainings with them. And, they say we have so many other things we're dealing with that when it comes to individual identity theft, there's not much we can do other than take a report. And so then we called the bank and we say, well, what do you think about it? And they don't do anything. They write it off. But meanwhile, we can become victims of character, criminal, medical, Social Security, IRS, our passports, our security licenses. We have a lot of people here in the greater Houston area, being the petrochemical capital of the United States, that they have their TWIC cards.
I had one of those.
In TSA. And of course, if you don't have your TWIC card, you don't work.
No.
Well, think about it from the corporate standpoint. If you have an employee that loses the security clearance, you have an employee that loses their professional license, maybe they're a mortgage broker or maybe they're an insurance agent.
Terrible.
And now they lose their license, well, now you get to pay unemployment. Right? You lose your best employee who's no longer employable because of some identity thief. So identity thief, it's not about our credit. It's not about somebody opened a cell phone or they used my MasterCard or my Visa. It's my digital DNA that can impact the corporation. And if the corporation has a breach, that's bad news.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if this hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, I used to say when I started in this industry 15 years ago, I said it's not a matter of if you become a victim, it's when. And that has now changed since 2005. PrivacyRights.org, an organization that tracks data breaches, socially responsible companies that actually reported they had a breach, it's over 13 billion records have been reported breached since 2005. So I think we can now say it's not a matter of if and when you become a victim, but how many times you'll become a victim of identity theft.
That's tough. So anybody that's out there listening from a corporation perspective, because that's what you consult in, is helping these corporations really seal up those gaps and keep the intruders out. What are some maybe ideas that we can share tactically to help them to encourage the employee knowledge on keeping this from happening?
Well, it's employee training.
Okay.
It's employee training, and you know, I find that a lot of corporations don't even know about some of the state and federal laws that are out there regarding identity theft. All the corporations know about the HIPAA laws, the Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act. You can't lose my medical data. There's fines and fees from the Health and Human Services. Many of them don't know that the Federal Trade Commission, they have the Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act, they have the Red Flag, they have the Gramm-Leach-Bliley, Sarbanes-Oxley, Texas Safe Record Keeping Act, California, Massachusetts. There's rules out there that companies have to, and there's a great guide I'd be happy to send anybody. It's courtesy of the Federal Trade Commission. It's called the Guide for Businesses on Identity Theft, and it has step-by-step what businesses should be doing to proactively help to reduce the incidence of identity theft. And in there it talks about particularly employee training, and it actually says have the employees sign off showing that they attended a cybersecurity awareness training to help to show that the company is proactive. Now, companies shouldn't have to do this. Companies should willingly do this.
Yeah, this whole thing reeks of a checkbox type opportunity that they just go,
yeah.
oh yeah, we did it, and the people don't. They look at it and they just go, oh yeah, sign here, and like, okay, we covered our asses with
Yeah,
this.
so and you know, we call that a desk policy. Well, we have the policy, we just don't enforce it.
Yeah.
But if we stop and look, the Ponyman Institute last year came out with a study and said 72% of all data breaches involve human error. 72%. Now, they also said that the average breach cost a small business $3.4 million.
And that's a small business.
Yeah, it could put most small businesses out because of one errant employee, one errant contractor, third-party vendor, which, by the way, part of the FACTA law says that you are also responsible for data that you cooperate with your insurance companies, your contractors, your IT departments, anybody you send your customer data out, your trail of liability follows the data. And so I work with companies to try to show them by doing lunch and learns, staff development, safety meeting, community awareness. I work with huge organizations, the Texas Association of Business, the Texas Chamber, Texas Association of Staffing, Texas Association of Regional Governments. They're all now saying, teach us more, help us more. And then they can show, if they do have a breach and regulators do come in, they can say, hey, we're actually being proactive. And it goes a long way in establishing, Tony, what we call an affirmative defense.
So I want you to share some of the manipulations or tactics that some of these people are trying to use against them. Maybe give us some examples of those.
The biggest thing is, one of the biggest threats that people have is bringing their mobile devices to work.
Wow.
Because they don't have security on the phones like they do others. Not using password management properly. It's amazing. People want to know what the most... Yeah, you want to know what the most popular password is? It's password.
Lowercase password.
Yeah, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the next one is QWERTY. But I was at a school district doing a security awareness training, and I heard a teacher say, well, just tell the temporary to turn my keyboard over, and my password's written on the bottom of the keyboard.
Oh, no.
And saying it in front of the students, right?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, this doesn't work this way. Another way is airports, juice jacking. It's a new one that's coming out. Many of us would want to charge our cell phone before we get on the plane. Well, the crooks are hijacking the jacking stations.
Come on.
Yeah.
The little charging stations?
Yeah, little charging stations, and they're actually downloading the malware on your phone. So the next time you get on it, they can transmit and get into everything.
That's crazy.
And then, of course, we have the phishing scams, and we don't have time to go into them all, but I can certainly send anybody a recorded webinar, or they can attend our free lunch and learns. But phishing scams, pretty much we know the Nigerian oil deal. Then we go to smishing, which is where smishing is where they're using texting along with the phishing scam combination, because you're 4 times more likely to read a text than an email. Yeah. And then there's vishing, which is where they're using the email, but then they're backing it up with a voice impersonation call. And they actually, I was watching one when I was at the cybersecurity. It's called DEFCON, where all the crooks go. So they have black hats and they have white hats. The white hats, obviously, they're to stop cybercrime, and the black hats are there to perpetrate it. The problem is you don't know who's who at these conferences. And we explore the dark web, the underbelly of the web, which is, again, that's fascinating because anybody can get in there, and that's where they sell munitions, drugs. You can buy opium,
organ
heroin.
parts.
Yeah, opium, heroin, stolen ID, stolen driver's license for pennies. But when we get into the smishing, the vishing, the phishing, and spear phishing is the biggest one today. That's where a crook will follow one of your employees, maybe in accounts payable or payroll, and they'll set up a fake but recognizable email. Like I had a local school district, actually 4 of them last Christmas here in the greater Houston area. I obviously can't tell you which ones they were, but they used the first name dot last name at whatever the school district was. Well, what the crooks did, they used first initial last name. Instead of first name dot last name, first initial last name. And they did it from the superintendent, the assistant superintendents, and they did it with a Christmas card attachment.
Oh, no.
And they did it the last day of school, so payroll's closed for 2 weeks. And teachers are like, oh, it's coming from the superintendent, coming from the assistant superintendent. It's a Christmas gift.
Maybe
no.
that's my bonus. Yeah, they get bonus information.
It's click on that email attachment, click on that download, and now all of a sudden they changed the payroll records at the ISDs. And then we have the worst one, which is what we call ransomware. And the crooks found out that 2 years ago in February, Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital, California, the crooks got in, shut down the entire system, 400-bed facility. No billing, no ordering supplies, no payroll. They couldn't do anything.
Patient information.
Yeah, the crooks wanted $3 million in bitcoins. The FBI said, don't pay it. Don't pay it. Well, they eventually said, if you pay us $17,000, we'll give you the key to get your computers back. And they paid it. Well, what they did was they opened Pandora's box. And we've just had so many large corporations, small corporations with ransomware. Many cities, Baltimore, they were shut down for 6 weeks. State of Texas just got hit, 13 different departments earlier in 2019. And so we will have human error, and we will have the human error continue because of the lack of awareness training. So the best thing a company can do, is to have regular schedule of employee training on the ongoing threats and development of how the crooks, the con men. The con men comes from the word confidence. They want to get in the confidence of our employees and in our families, for the family people listening to me today. Identity theft is about character, criminal, medical, Social Security, IRS, passports. Your children below the age of 18, huge risk, because the crooks can take that Social Security of a 2 or a 5 or a 10 or a 15-year-old and use it undetected because you can't see a credit report.
For over a decade, they could be using it.
Yeah, till the kid turns 18, wants to fill out their financial aid form to get money to go to college, and now they find out that their ID has been destroyed because somebody used the number with a different name.
Wow.
And the best thing we can do is to have the employee training at the workplace so the employees can see the value of protecting their own personal data, and therefore inherently the byproduct is they'll be more responsible, so all eyes and ears within the corporation will be looking for the way the crooks penetrate. And if we can do that, we can help to contribute, we can help to deter and detect and defend against this ever-growing threat, because it can and it will continue to put many businesses out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And I think I read a statistic a couple of years ago about this when I was doing a training, was that it tends to be the elderly people who fall for these kind of scams the most, because they're not aware of they're more trusting of the technology that they see it coming in.
Well, they do. However, the other group of individuals, the one that hits the hardest, believe it or not, is the 18 to 25-year-old.
Why was that?
That's because they're trusting. They're caring. They're invincible. They want to share their passwords. They want to share their cell phone and their iPads.
They haven't been punched in the nose yet. That's what it is.
Yeah, with some of us older generation, the boomers, we remember Ronald Reagan when he said, trust but verify, right?
Yeah.
Or the folks from Missouri, show me,
Yeah.
right? So, but you know, look, we're in the advent, and look, you know, in a lot of the workshops we do, and we do complimentary workshops for organizations. There's no cost for us to come in and help you resolve these issues in your company, your association. I work with all the chambers in the state of Texas and all the business associations. And because then I get to meet the business owners, the clients. So, you know, if you give, you will receive.
Yeah.
And when we go in there and we talk about it, it could be, I mean, heck, my wife and I were shopping, right? I'll never forget this, about 4 or 5 months ago. We're at Kroger, and the lady's in her cell phone looking in her refrigerator at home.
What?
Yeah, she's looking in her refrigerator at home to see if she needs milk or eggs or butter or something.
What kind of crazy is this?
It is
There's
crazy.
a camera in her
but it gets
refrigerator.
worse. I said to my wife, I said, that's extreme. That is like over the top. That's too much. She's connected to her refrigerator. You know what my wife said? Hey, it's kind of neat. We need to buy one. And I'm like, we're not going to buy one of those things, and here's why. It's one more data point. It's one more connection to the internet that they can get into my system
and watch and see what's in your fridge.
They can watch what's in my fridge, but more importantly, they can vandalize into my network. There was a girl in Suffolk, London, over in England, and she was being penalized by Mom. She was on the web way too much. Mom took all the instruments away, and the girl was still tweeting. Right? She's on Twitter, still sending out Twitters. She found a way to do it from the family refrigerator.
Come on.
Yeah.
So it's the weakest link will always leave the exploitation.
Here's the problem I get, Tony, as we wrap this session up, is what I find is that the companies that are coming out with the technology, whether it's the smart TVs, the baby monitors, the cell tracking, because we have this Internet of Things now.
It's good intentions.
We want everything, and we want it now, right? What I'm finding is that companies are shipping products and software to the marketplace before the security is there to protect us. Because they want to get there before somebody comes up with another app and another hardware product. And so, therefore, we're sacrificing security. And it only takes one link.
That's it.
It only takes one link to destroy your life. I have a good friend. I feel so bad for him. Financial planner, 30 years in the business, lost all his professional licenses because his identity was stolen by a pedophile.
Wow.
By a pedophile.
Compounded the damage
and
there.
it ruined this man's life. I know this guy. I served in churches with this guy. He served at my wedding, right? And now he can't even travel outside of Harris County without reporting in.
It's terrible, guys. If you have a business out there and you have employees, it is your duty to protect them and inform them of these things, because there's a lot of malicious people out there taking advantage, and you can hear the disruption of this. If that kind of disruption happens to one of your key employees, it's going to put their lives in turmoil, and it's going to disrupt your business and the result.
Yeah, and you know, people ask me, is there a solution? No, I'm afraid there's not.
Yeah.
It's too profitable. It's too profitable. The Secret Service, I think it was in 2007, said that the profitability of trafficking data had surpassed the profitability of trafficking drugs. Now think about that.
Yeah.
Trafficking data. And here's the reason. You see, folks, if we have a piece of electronics, we can only sell it one time. If we have drugs, we can only sell it one time. But if we have data, We can sell it to as many buyers as we can find internationally, and the person who bought the stolen data can resell it again and again. And so, therefore, I don't see an end to the ever-growing threat of identity theft. All I see is that we, as responsible business owners, executives, heads of nonprofits, we need to engage. And I promise you, folks, I've been doing this for too many years in too many countries. The employees will appreciate the opportunity to have us come in, do a lunch and learn for your staff, an employee training day, and to help to develop that culture of safety and security. So it's been a pleasure to share this information with you, Tony, and I look forward to the next time we get together.
Well, Frank, I've learned a lot in this last 20, 30 minutes, and I know the listeners as well. This is Tony Watley with the 365 Driven podcast and Frank Mulcahy. Frank, if they need to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Just go on Google and put Frank Mulcahy identity theft, and I'll be pop up. You'll find me out there. Link with me on LinkedIn. Let me send you some of the podcasts. Let me send you some of the Zoom trainings. Let me come in and do a no-cost obligation lunch and learn for your employees.
Excellent. Well, it's been an awesome show. Thank you for joining us.
We are broadcasting live from the Woodlands, Texas to the world. You're listening to the only multimedia FM station in Houston, Texas. Your Fusion Radio. Top 40s, dance, Latin, country, pop, rock and roll. All in one station. Mixing genres and generations. You're listening to KNLY New Waverly, Texas. 91.1 FM, The Boss.